All right, so let's see if I can fix this a little bit. So welcome to Learning with IPv-Dre. Learning with IPv-Dre is essentially going to be a study with me, learn with me series where I, in real time, figure out how to do certain things. In real time, we both learn how to do things in the tech field, right? In the tech world. We are going to be gaining skills with each other, working with each other, and hopefully, create a good relationship, a good vibe, get an engaging community going. That's my intent with this channel, and that's my intent with this series. And as you can see, I'm trying out a little live series format, if you will. This video is going to be a premiere, but what I'm going to be doing is practicing the format of live streaming, because that's the ideal way to do these videos, so that you can kind of like learn with me, study with me, right? I remember back in my day when I used to study with my classmates in the library when we were studying calculus, physics, and all those things, and it was fun. I want to create that same vibe over the internet, over the YouTubes, right? So bear with me as I work through this format, and bear with the people that are moving into an apartment across from me. You're gonna hear a lot of noise probably, but yeah. So what are we gonna be learning in this session? I mean, you already saw the title, but this is going to be a video on Active Directory, creating a lab environment for Active Directory by using virtualization software, by using a Type 2 hypervisor, right? This is CompTIA A+ certification buzzwords in this video, right? You're gonna get a lot of CompTIA A+ buzzwords, right? So we're gonna be using a Type 2 hypervisor, VirtualBox. You can also use VMware. You can also use Microsoft Azure. You can use AWS. You can use those cloud environments to build your lab if your PC doesn't have the feasible resources, right? As you're learning in your CompTIA A+ studies, you need to have a machine that has an adequate amount of CPU cores, an adequate amount of RAM, and an adequate amount of storage to create each virtual machine. And funny enough, my little laptop that I'm going to be demonstrating this on, it may or may not have enough resources for us to enact this little lab experiment. I wanted to use a better machine. I have a nice little Lenovo ThinkCentre all-in-one computer that I installed Linux on, and at first it had like about 8 gigs of RAM, but I was able to upgrade it to 16 gigs, throw 16 gigs in it, and now it's perfect for virtualization. But the problem is I can't get the video onto the Mac Mini that I'm using right now. So let me stop running my mouth. I want to get into it. So first things first. First things first. What do you have to do in order to make your PC capable of virtualization? And I also want to note that I'm doing this on a Windows machine. You can do this on Windows, you can do this on Mac, you can do this on Linux. With Mac, you have to be careful, because if you're using an M1 Mac, you're not going to be able to use VirtualBox. You're not going to be able to virtualize on it, as far as I know currently, right? They might have, I think they're coming out, or they came out with some software that allows for you to virtualize on M1, but I don't know the status of that yet. I'll have to double check. You can do this also on Linux. You can install VirtualBox or VMware or any other virtualization software on Linux, and you could begin virtualizing that way too. But before you can even do that, what do you need to do? You need to enable virtualization through your BIOS. That's something that I took for granted because when I first started virtualization, I did it on a 2012 MacBook Pro and virtualization was already enabled on it. But when I tried to do it on my Linux machine, it wouldn't allow for me to do it because I didn't have virtualization enabled through the BIOS. Now, how do you do that? If you have anything other than a Mac, right, and you're booting up the computer, the first thing you want to do is there's going to be a little thing at the bottom, little, I guess, marquee or a little banner at the bottom that's going to tell you what button to press if you want to go into the BIOS. And then once you press that button, it's either F10 or F11. Once you press that button, you got to press it repeatedly, quickly as the machine is starting up. You'll be into the BIOS and you can mess around with some things. Don't break anything. The ideal thing, what I learned during A+, when you're messing around with the BIOS, you should probably record yourself messing around with the BIOS. Just make sure you record or take a picture of the default settings if they don't have a reset to default option, so that you don't touch something by mistake and screw your computer up, right? Ideally now, you want to go straight to where it says virtualization or something like that. Each system is different and you want to enable virtualization. And then you restart the computer, save and restart the computer, and then you get to downloading VirtualBox, right? And if you see me looking to my left every so often, is because I have a checklist or a script that I want to follow, because I don't want this video to get too long and out of control and boring and all of that stuff, right? So you've enabled virtualization. If you haven't done so now, go ahead and do that. Pause the video and come back. And we will start setting up virtualization, right? So now we are going to install VirtualBox, right? I already have it pulled up here. At the time of this recording, there's something wrong with the VirtualBox, the VirtualBox website. So it won't let me show you how to install VirtualBox, unfortunately. But it's pretty straightforward. You just click one of these things. Yeah, it's not working. So what you're basically gonna do is you're gonna Google VirtualBox, go to the downloads or go to the main page. And on the main page, it's going to show you how to download VirtualBox, right? I think we're at VirtualBox 6.1. Yeah, I think we're at VirtualBox 6.1 or something like that. So you're gonna download that, right? Also, again, keep in mind, excuse me, we're setting up a lab environment in VirtualBox. So you're going to be installing 2 virtual machines, Windows Server and Windows 10. Those are the 2 virtual machines that you're gonna be installing. Of course, you can do Windows 11, or you could do Windows Server 2016 if you want. But in this demonstration, I'm gonna be using Windows Server 2019 and Windows 10. Now, the only thing that's probably gonna be different between my setup and your setup is that I have to use Windows Server in a VM and use the Windows 10 that's installed on my laptop as the computer that's going to join the domain some episodes down the line, maybe 1 or 2 episodes down the line, right? So as you can see here, I'm using Windows Server 2019 in VirtualBox, and again, I'm going to be using my machine to join the controller that I'm installing on Windows Server 2019. That's because I don't have enough resources on this laptop to install a separate Windows VM on there, right? So I had to kind of get a little janky. Like I said before, I wanted to use my Lenovo, which has more than enough resources on it, but that's not the case. So just to reiterate, you're going to be, or ideally I'd recommend if you have I highly recommend that you install 2 virtual machines on VirtualBox, Windows Server 2019 and Windows 10. That way, if you mess anything up in the virtual machine, you'll be good to go. I'm taking a risk with using my laptop because I want to make this video for you all. I want to demonstrate, right? But make sure you use VMs so that if you mess anything up, you'll be able to just delete or reset the VM pretty easily, right? So what do we have here? I'm making sure that we're on track, right? And of course, you hear people moving outside. This is crazy. Earlier when I was trying to record this video, I had some maintenance crew come through. They was cleaning up the yard outside, doing some lawn stuff, some lawn care and stuff, and it really destroyed my video. All right, so again, before you install any of these VMs, make sure that you have adequate minimum system requirements, right? For the Windows Server 2019 or 2016 machine, you want to have a minimum of 2 gigabytes of RAM and 32 gigabytes of storage, right? For the 64-bit version. And for the 64-bit version of Windows 10, you want 2 gigabytes of RAM and 20 gigabytes of storage. 64-bit, right? This is A+ stuff. This is the Core 2 stuff that you're gonna learn when you start studying for the Core 2 exam. The Core 2 exam requires that you know a lot about Windows, minimum specifications, which ones you can upgrade to from which one, like how do you can you upgrade from Windows Professional to Windows Enterprise and vice versa, and Windows Home to, can you navigate between those setups, right? So that is definitely a requirement for the Core 2. You got to know that like the back of your hand, right? So make sure you have enough resources on your machine, right? Now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to download Windows Server 2019, which is pretty straightforward. Windows is so generous as to let us get a trial version, as you can see here. All you need to do, again, use Google. Google's your friend, right? Microsoft Evaluation Center, right? You go there, right? Pretty straightforward stuff. Go to Windows. Ooh, they got Windows 11 Enterprise now that we can play around with. Office 365 Development Lab Kit. Windows 10 Enterprise. Right? Windows Server. We got 2022. I want to play with 2022 soon. We got 2019, 2016, 2012. You got, oh, what's this? SQL Server? I got to mess around with SQL as well. System Center 20. Security. Yeah, okay, I'm getting carried away here. So you go over to the Windows Server 2019, you put your information in, and you hit download now. You're gonna download an ISO file, ideally, right? Same thing for Windows 10 trial. You're gonna download, you're gonna put your information in, and you're going to download. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. You guys can let me know if I'm going too fast. Ideally, I think Windows Server gives you, the evaluation gives you 6 months, I believe, of evaluation time, and Windows 10 gives you 90 days, which is 3 months, right? You can always, I guess, ask Microsoft for an extension, or you can rearm the trial for Windows Server 2019. And I believe if you want to keep it, you have to buy a license key, and you put the license key in and everything. I don't know how that works with keeping your domain and everything that you set up on. I'm not really sure if you have to install a fresh copy and it's gonna mess your system up or not, but that's something to keep in mind, right? Yeah, so next thing you want to do is, now that you have the ISO downloaded, this is a good practice. you want to check the authenticity, the integrity of the ISO images. Now, we know that we downloaded this from Microsoft, right? We know that. But who knows if there's, you know, a man-in-the-middle attack. Maybe there's a, I don't know, a rogue device in between your laptop, your machine, and the Microsoft server. Maybe somebody edited the file. Maybe somebody who's a bad actor wants to destroy your system and, you know, put a little, you know, reformatted the file a little bit, put a little bug in there or something, right? We know that the chances of that is very real. Look at all the cybersecurity incidents that are happening nowadays, right? So ideally, you want to, and this is a best practice or a good habit to get into, you want to check the integrity of the ISO image, right? You want to check the integrity of the ISO image. I had the music bumping just now. Hopefully it didn't destroy the integrity of the video, but you want to check the integrity of the file by going to PowerShell, right? Getting into PowerShell is pretty easy. You just hit the Windows button, X, then you could click PowerShell or PowerShell admin. I think PowerShell is the ideal way to do it. We see we're in my folder right here, my home folder, my users folder, and all you need to do, CD, downloads, which brings me to the downloads folder where I downloaded the ISO file to. And now the next thing you want to do is type get file hash dot backslash Windows 10 eval dot ISO, right? Once you do that, a hash is going to come up, right? Because the file, you know, you want to check the hashing algorithm, you want to check the hash of the file, which checks the integrity of the file, and you want to compare it against a text file that has the hash in it. You want to compare it to make sure that the file is the intended file that the author made, right? If the hashes don't match up, then you have a problem. You might want to re-download the file, maybe from a different server and all of that stuff, right? This is something that I learned while doing the A+, right? And as you can see, the algorithm that it used to compute it, SHA-256, this is something that we learned in the CCNA in order to hash passwords, right? This is the hash right here, right? So you're gonna take that and compare it next to some text file that contains the hashing value and make sure that it's legitimate, make sure that it's genuine. Now, this is something that you're going to be doing when you're downloading different Linux distributions like Kali Linux, Linux Mint, maybe I think CentOS, Red Hat, all of these different versions of Linux. They they advise you to check the hash against the author's text file to make sure that it's the legitimate hash, right? So that's something that I like to do every time I'm installing a virtual machine, because I don't want to download any viruses, I don't want to download any keyloggers, no Trojans or anything like that, right? So that's pretty straightforward. And you can change the algorithm that you're using to compute the hash, but it doesn't really matter, right? You don't have to get that deep into it right now. So, and you can see that, you know, getting the ISOs from Windows pretty easy and straightforward, right? So now the next thing you want to do is you want to install Windows Server, right? Ideally, again, by now you have VirtualBox installed and everything. I already have Windows Server 2019 installed, so you know there's not much more that I can show you other than how to create the I guess I don't want to say container because that's more of like a Docker's type of thing, but how to create the virtual machine itself, right? So now how you create the virtual machine is you go to new, right? And if we're doing Windows Server 2019, right? Windows Server 2019. right? Cannot create Windows Server. Folder already exists. See, it already exists. I already have that. So let's just put Windows Server, right? We already have that. Let's just click next, right? Now this is the important part. Make sure you've allocated the minimum requirements for RAM right here, right? So boom, you have 2048. Next, you can create a virtual hard disk. You can put, it could be a VDI, be dynamically allocated, which basically means that it's going to expand to a pre-configured amount, which you're going to see probably on the next screen. Yep, 32 gigs. That is the, I guess that's the minimum for Windows Server 2019, right? You click create, right? Now there's something called an OVA file, which is essentially a compressed VM, which has all of those settings already pre-configured for you, right? All of those settings are pre-configured for you. You just click the button and it installs it for you, but you gotta click import. I wish I had an example, but I don't. So you can even play around with the settings a little bit. This is what I like to do, specifically the networking part, which is going to be very important for what we're trying to do when it comes to joining the domains and stuff like that. It's going to be fun to play around with. See, you got the system. You can change around the RAM if you want. I don't think I always remember it being like that, but yeah, you can change around the video memory. You can put it up to 128. Now, this is where you're actually going to boot up and install Windows Server 2019. And how you do that is you click this little disc here, little CD or DVD that says empty. I believe you got to double click it. Nope, can't double click it. You click here on the side, and I already have this ISO here. This is not actually Microsoft Windows 10 eval. It's Windows Server 2019. I mislabeled it. But you click this, choose / create a virtual optical disk, and let me know down in the comment section if I'm going too fast, because I don't want to make this video too long. And yeah, that's why I'm going a little bit fast. Then you click this, and then you click choose, and it'll load in, right? You click OK. Then, so you're basically creating the virtual machine and then navigating to where the ISO image is and clicking OK on it, right? And then you can click start, right? You click start, and then it'll install. Ideally, now you want to pay attention to the messaging of the next few screens when you install it, right? I'm gonna go ahead and delete this because we're not going to be using this. Remove, delete all files. Making sure I have the right one. Yeah. Ideally, on the next screen, you're going to see. Let me see. Yep, I have it in my notes here, right? When you're installing Windows Server 2019, you're going to see a screen that's going to ask you which of the 4 options you want to choose. One is going to say Windows 2019 Standard Evaluation, and then it's going to say Windows Server 2019 Standard Evaluation, and in parentheses, it's going to ask you if you want the desktop experience, right? And after that, it's going to say Windows Server 2019 Data Center Evaluation, Windows Server 2019 Data Center Evaluation, and in the parentheses, desktop experience. Click on Windows Server 2019 Standard Evaluation Desktop Experience. If you don't, and you click Windows Server 2019 Standard Evaluation, I believe it's going to be all command line, and you don't want that. You want desktop experience, right? Where you have all of this and you can, click the icons. You want the GUI, the graphical user interface, right? We're not command line junkies yet, right? So make sure, again, you click Windows Server 2019 Standard Evaluation Desktop Experience so that you can get the desktop experience, right? Then after that, you're going to click custom install, and then you're gonna let it install, right? It's gonna take a little while depending on your system. And yeah, I mean, if your system is slow, then it's gonna take a little while, right? That's why I pre-configured everything. That's why I download everything. Let me show you what Windows Server looks like and what we're gonna be messing around with. Let's see how long it takes to start up though. In the next video, I'm gonna have everything already started up so that we can, I don't know what I did to get that to do that, but yeah. I'm gonna show you all of the things, well, not all of the things, but some of the things that we are gonna be fooling around with, right? And again, I'm learning as you're learning. That's why I'm making these videos. I didn't really do any Active Directory work when I was studying for the CompTIA A+. Now, you're gonna have this. It's gonna say press Control Alt Delete to unlock, right? So what you're gonna do is gonna go up here, and then you're gonna go to Insert Control Alt Delete, and then I'm going to type in my password. And then it's gonna come up in a second. My computer's slow. Using a little laptop. So, boom, once this comes up, I like this. This is a nice little backdrop. Yeah, so this is what we're gonna be seeing at first, right? And then the server manager is gonna come up, and that's where we are going to start configuring and installing Active Directory. But like I said before, I'm learning as you're learning. I didn't really fool around with Active Directory. I took the A+ to learn the basics and all of that stuff. And then I knew that I wanted to focus on networking, and I went into networking. Depending on who you ask, there's so many different ways to enter into the IT field. This journey that I'm documenting on this YouTube channel is one of the ways in which I'm entering into the IT field, by documenting what I'm learning, creating a portfolio so that I can create my personal brand, and so that employers can see, so I can interview and show them my portfolio and things of that nature. And hopefully somebody will take a chance on me and you know, give me an entry-level role, right? Whether it's networking or help desk, right? Some people advise that you get your A+ and then get a job, which is great. But I don't know how that's gonna work in this economy, because it seems like a lot of tech firms are tightening their belts right now at the time of this recording. So I think the best way to get some experience is to do what we're doing here. And then when companies are starting to hire more and they're more willing to take risks and chances on newbies, you'll kind of already know how to install and fool around with all of this stuff, right? Not fool around. You want to ideally know how to do this stuff. So ideally, we're gonna, in the next video, we're going to do this is where it begins, right? We install Active Directory here. I didn't do it on this computer yet. I think I did it on my other system, but yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, you installed VirtualBox. You've installed Windows Server 2019 and Windows 10. If you want to do it now, ideally, I think you should probably do it now, because in the next video, we're not going to go into Windows 10, or we might go into Windows 10 installation. But I don't know, because I already have Windows 10 on my laptop machine to join the domain. What else did you do? You enabled the virtualization through the BIOS. What else? You checked the integrity of your ISO. That's 5 things you did so far. You learned a little bit of PowerShell, and you looked at the server real quick. So that's pretty much it. In the next video, we're gonna actually start getting our hands a little bit more dirty, and we're going to be flirting with installing Active Directory. I'm probably gonna make a few mistakes because I'm not an expert at this yet, but I'm excited to do this. And yeah, let me know how this format works, if the sound is good, if the picture is good. I know that the quality of the screen, the Windows, is not really the best, but yeah, let me know if you like it, if there's something you're willing to see more of, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.